So you got a track day coming up and you don't know how to prepare for it. Well, stay tuned. I'm going to show you what I do. So first, let's start at the car. Usually I like to make sure that my wheel bearings, my tie rods are good. I usually jack the car up and shake the wheels up and down or vertically and then horizontally to see if there's any play in them. I like to make sure that my brakes are still decent and have decent pads on them. And then I like to make sure that any sort of ball joints or anything like that aren't all busted up, or lower ball joints, or possibly even the tie rod ends. Usually that's about where I stick with suspension. It's usually pretty well set up. If you're going to start making changes at the track, then bring the tools to do so. But usually I like to go and just try and get some track time in and not worry about fixing stuff. In this case, I've taken my front end off because I'm getting mine trailered, and there's no way that my splitter will clear when I go up on the trailer. So it's mine's a quick disconnect front end, so it doesn't take too long to put on and take off. I did have to go in and make sure that some of my wires are out of the way. This is for speed density, my intake air temperature sensor, and then I had to remount some stuff on my front mount. Nothing big, just small things that I don't have to worry about when I'm on track. Then I also changed the oil in this car. I like to do that just to get fresh oil in it because it doesn't have an oil cooler on it. Hopefully that'll be a winter project I'll step you all through. And then I also like to drain the catch can if you have anything in your catch can. This is a pretty small air oil separator. I think I got a video on that too. I don't have a lot of blow by in this engine. It's a pretty healthy engine, I feel, and so I clear it about once every 4 or 5 months. I like to make sure my brake and clutch reservoir are full or up to the full mark. I use RBF, is that it? I don't know, whatever the Motul is, Motul 600. And then that's pretty much it. Make sure your air filter's good, and then inspect some lines. Make sure that you don't have any cracks in your boost or vacuum and boost lines. That's pretty much where I stick with it. I try not to get too in depth with maintenance or anything because I'll end up worrying about stuff just way too much. I like to make sure that all my my windows are in. Everything I need is going to be there. But going into the car, I like to make sure it's clean. I come in here and I vacuum it pretty good. Make sure that there's no debris or anything that potentially fly up in my face when I'm on track at speed. And I make sure that I have everything else already in place so that way I can just get there, unload, and I'm good to go. Coming over here to my area of tooling, I like to bring quite a bit of stuff with me. I don't feel comfortable just taking the car there without anything to troubleshoot with. So we'll go over a few things that I think are sort of needed at all times. Oil is the first one. I use 540 in this, Rotella T6. It's probably some of the best oil I've found for this. I mean, if it can handle heavy duty diesel applications, I have no problem with using it in here. I use Rain-X. I don't have windshield wipers. Always bring a multimeter with you. This is a cheap one from Harbor Freight that I just throw around. I don't really care too much about, but it's great for troubleshooting, making sure things have 12 volts, or if you need to do any sort of power consumption tests. Make sure you bring some rags with you. You're always going to need them. I like to bring, this is a nice set of Mac Tools adjustable ratchet wrenches. They're also swivel. These things come in handy everywhere. This is a pretty small toolkit from Craftsman. I've had this for years now, and everything's still in it, and it's saved me on a number of occasions. I've got some extra extensions in it, a swivel head 3/8. All this is pretty much 3/8. It does have some 1/2-inch stuff in there, but I don't have a 1/2-inch ratchet in it. I just use an adapter. So it goes up to about 19 mil. For this Miata, that's exactly where I need it. I think the largest thing on here outside of a 19 mil is like my axle nuts, and I don't have actually no, I do have a socket in there for that. So I got everything pretty much covered there. A torque wrench. This is it's a cheap Pittsburgh from Harbor Freight. It's good for lug nuts. I would never use it for main caps or head studs. It's fine for basic suspension components and lug nuts, and that's pretty much it. I've got a small impact and a drill just in case. The impact doesn't really help much for busting off lug nuts or anything, but it makes work pretty quick on other stuff. Once you get it started a little bit with the wrench or by hand, then just zip it on real fast. Right below it in the yellow box is various drill bits. I've got a bunch of different clamps. These are all hose clamps. I've got a T-bolt clamp. I've got a few extra T-bolt clamps that I like to carry, various other sizes, just in case. You never know what you're going to need it for. I take these are used spark plugs. Those are my old ones. They're probably still good, but I change them every year anyways. And then one new one just in case I do, I don't know, burn something up repetitively. I take another coil with me for my LS coils. I wouldn't recommend if you're using a factory option or a factory coil pack. Maybe just take some extra wire, an extra wire with you or something. I don't know. You're probably not going to bring an extra coil pack with you. There's a set of channel locks, some needle nose. That 1-inch wrench there is for my oil drain. It's kind of a custom thing I had to do to even reach my drain, so I bring that with me. A set of vice grips, an extra fuel pump just in case. I never know. You know, I've had them go bad before. This is just a stock one. At least it'll get me home if I need to. Here's the RBF 600 brake and clutch fluid. Some tape. This is a compression tape. It works pretty well for sealing stuff up if I need to, or making sure that things stay where they need to be. I have some wire here, some coated wire, just in case I need to get stuff out of the way. A decent sized ball peen hammer. A flathead of pretty large size. I'd almost call this a pry bar outside of it being a flathead. And then a nice Phillips, a pretty strong Phillips with a good grip. Telescoping magnet. Some basic files, just a flat round file. This is a pry bar. Yeah, I've needed that more than I can ever remember. Like, more than you would think you would need a pry bar. They come in real handy. I also bring this is my old aluminum jack that I travel with everywhere. I've had it since about 2004. It's in pretty rough shape, but she still does what I need her to do. I've got a really shitty old pump. This is from, I think I got this at like Aldi's or something for a couple bucks. It's just enough to get enough, you know, a couple PSI pressure if you need it. Some various bolts and things. These range all through. I don't know what I'll need them for, and that's the whole reason I've got them, because you never know. Some electrical tape, brake pads. These are front and rear. These are just some stock stuff. They're nothing special, but say I do lose a pad completely or something delaminates, at least I'll have something else to put in to get me home. I've got some various zip ties. These are just two of them. I've got some other sets around. Some clamps. These are just in case you may need any sort of clamping pressure. They're pretty much an extra set of hands is how I look at it. A big C-clamp. Again, these things are more valuable than you'd know. Just you can use them for all sorts of different things. I like to bring at least one jack stand. Two is ideal, but you know, space is limited. I get it. It's a Miata. This is my side view mirror that I just did, my convex mirror. Some GoPro stuff. I've got other GoPro stuff in there. This is just laying out here. You don't forget your tire gauge. This is a pretty big deal. That's a pretty crappy tire gauge, but as long as you know the air, I've had it tested against some really nice gauges, and I know about what the air, it's about 4 PSI off, so I can deal with it. I like to bring extra shoes. These are my racing shoes. They have a rolled heel on them. I like to bring racing gloves because you just start sweating like crazy. My helmet. This is a SA 2010. The track that I go to quite often requires SA rated, but sometimes, you know, DOT will get by. You'll get by with just DOT or even more basic M rated helmets. Here's my Boxo other things. I've got, you know, an N-Link in here, some various nuts, washers, bolts, clamps, flashlight, extra fuel injector, some different T fittings for you know, vacuum or boost line. I don't know what's in. What is this? Gaskets, fuses. I've got all sorts of little things in here that I might need. Stuff for my wideband, little bits of hose, some measuring PVC, and then in my larger box, I've got extra hose for coolant. This is you know, upper lower radiator hose. I've got some other small hose. This is gas line, but it works for a water line for my turbo. I've also got an extra cam angle sensor that I like to carry around just in case mine goes bad. Again, some more clamps. This is a V-band. And then I've got you know, another worm gear. Sunscreen, always good to have. Some extra sheathing for heat. And then various, I don't even know what this thing is. Whatever, I'll end up finding a use for it, I guarantee it. And then I also like to bring some ratchet straps just in case. And I can fit pretty much all this stuff you see here inside of that bag in the back. And it's a tight fit, but I mean, the the goal is not to take it out. You don't want to have to use it. So if you can get it all to fit and not have to use it, you've successful day. Of course, tires. I'm going to be using some. A friend of mine actually is going to let me use these. There's some 13. They're drag something. I don't remember. They're pretty cool. We put them on the other day and rode around in them, and they changed the gearing a tremendous amount in the car. They're C71s, Hankooks, but their date stamp's pretty old. I think it's from 2011. We looked at them. They've got a lot of OPR already on them from being used pretty heavily, but there's still some decent grooves in it, so we're going to give that a shot. He's got his Panasports. He's in a CRX Panasports with some R888s on it. They're 13s as well, and we're all going to be trailering down there together, so that's how I like to get ready for track stuff. You know, there's other things you can do for it, and depending on how long you're going to be down there. We're camping, so I've got some camping gear that we're going to take with us as well. Just a tent. I'm bringing a hot plate and a few other things. But if you're staying in a hotel, you don't need to bring that kind of stuff. Maybe a change of clothes, and you'll be pretty good. This is kind of the cheap way to do it. It's just a one-day event. We're only going to be out there, and I think we get 7 sessions, most likely, if nothing breaks or anybody goes off track and slows everyone else down. That almost always happens, but hopefully it won't be me doing it. We'll see what ends up happening. That'll be coming next week, so hopefully in the next week or two, I'll be posting a video up of Atlanta Motorsport Park again, and then we'll see how it ends up going. See you guys next week.